He was Frank Hardy, the older, calmer brother who always thought before acting, brought to life on ABC beside Sean Cassidy in The Hardy Boys. Long before the internet decided what was popular, Dynamite magazine did, and seeing Parker Stevenson on the cover meant something special. Years later, a whole new generation recognized him as Craig Pomeroy on Baywatch, the kind of familiar face that fit every sunny Malibu afternoon and stayed in people's minds. Two hit shows, two different generations, one man who never chased the spotlight. And that was always the most Parker Stevenson thing about him. But behind that familiar smile was a love story, nothing like the roles he played. A woman who was completely different from him, a marriage that lasted 14 years before falling apart, leaving behind memories even 25 years could not erase. Then, on a December morning in 2022, that woman was gone, and Parker Stevenson finally shared feelings he had never fully expressed before. Parker grew up in a world that looked very different from the one that shaped Kirstie Alley. He was born in Philadelphia in 1952 and raised with a quiet Episcopalian upbringing that often creates people who, as he once described himself, were simply in the room instead of trying to steal it. He attended Phillips Exeter Academy. He was quiet, thoughtful, and naturally handsome without trying to stand out. When ABC cast him as Frank Hardy in The Hardy Boys, Nancy Drew Mysteries in 1977 beside Sean Cassidy, playing brothers who solved mysteries with easy confidence, he became a teen idol before he had fully decided acting was his future. Girls covered their bedroom walls with his photos. He appeared on the cover of Dynamite magazine and suddenly seemed to be everywhere, just like many young stars at the peak of fame. Then the series ended after 3 seasons, and he had to figure out his next move. That next chapter included Kirstie Alley. It was 1981. They met at a bar in Los Angeles. The story has been told so many times that it almost feels legendary, which probably means the biggest moments really happened. Parker was there with a date, while Kirstie was out with her roommate. The second she spotted him across the room, she turned and declared with complete confidence, "For him, I would die." There was just one problem: he had arrived with someone else. Kirstie still walked right over. Reports say Parker left his date behind so he could dance with her. That is how it all started. Looking back years later, Parker spoke about that moment with surprising honesty. He admitted he felt burned out, tired of his teen idol image, and unsure where his career was heading next. Kirstie Alley had this wonderful conviction and joy about what she was doing, he said. He admitted he had lost that spark, and being around her made everything feel different. That simple comment revealed a lot. It showed a man who saw something in a stranger that he realized was missing from his own life, and he wanted to stay close to it. They dated for 2 years, before marrying on the 22nd of December 1983. By then, they clearly understood just how different they really were. She was a rap-loving, vegetable-eating, outspoken Scientologist who brought huge energy into every room she entered, and people either loved it or found it overwhelming, sometimes both. Parker loved classical music, had a serious sweet tooth, remained Episcopalian, and described himself as someone who simply stayed in the room. Their politics were different. Their eating habits were different. Their faiths were different. Even their personalities seemed to sit on opposite ends of the scale. Years later, Parker summed it up with complete honesty. "Kirstie and I are exact opposites." That was exactly what made their relationship so fascinating. But as Parker later admitted, being complete opposites does not always lead to a strong marriage. Even so, they gave it everything they had for 14 years. They shared a massive 32-room mansion in Encino, California, where Kirstie cared for as many as 50 animals: dogs, cats, possums, geese, and almost any creature that needed a home. That was just who she was. If something needed help, she said yes. Together, they built a life that was big, busy, and full of excitement, because that was how Kirstie wanted to live. Parker, naturally quiet and reserved, somehow found his place in all that chaos. More importantly, he loved the woman who created it. But those years also brought heartbreaking moments. In 1990, Kirstie suffered a miscarriage 3 months into her pregnancy. She later wrote about that loss with painful honesty in her memoir. She shared how her body still believed she was pregnant, producing milk for 9 months after the pregnancy had ended. She also admitted she never truly moved on from it. The grief stayed with her far longer than most people could ever imagine. Parker stood beside her through every painful step. 2 years later, in 1992, they adopted their son, William True. Then, in 1994, their daughter Lily completed the family. Parker Stevenson, once known as a teenage heartthrob, embraced fatherhood, and many people believed it suited him better than any character he had ever played. At the same time, Kirstie's career reached incredible new heights. She joined Cheers in 1987 as Rebecca Howe, the bar's new manager, stepping into a hugely successful show after 5 seasons. She went on to win both an Emmy and a Golden Globe. During the 1991 Emmy Awards, she thanked Parker in a way only Kirstie Alley could publicly, personally, and with words that made the entire audience gasp before bursting into laughter. Parker sat in the audience as his wife turned an acceptance speech into something that was equal parts love, humor, and mischief. That moment captured exactly who Kirstie was. Looking back at those years, there is little doubt he truly loved her. He loved her during the easy times and the difficult ones, even when their differences stopped feeling exciting and started creating real distance. Her larger-than-life personality often clashed with his need for peace and quiet. He loved her, but love alone could not erase how different they were. That balance between deep affection and constant conflict is what makes their story so unforgettable. They even worked together. In 1986, before Cheers turned Kirstie into a television superstar, they appeared together in the miniseries North and South, Book 2, Love and War. They played opposite each other on screen, then returned home together after filming. Living and working side by side can make every emotion feel stronger. The happy moments become even brighter, while the disagreements become harder to escape. They kept pushing forward and made it work for years. But relationships built on opposite personalities sometimes struggle under the very differences that first brought two people together. By November 1996, after more than 13 years of trying, they separated. The divorce papers listed irreconcilable differences, the legal term for what Parker later explained more simply as having different goals in life. In a joint statement, they said they planned to remain the best of friends and devoted parents to their children. For many celebrity couples, statements like that sound hopeful but do not always match reality. In their case, staying close friends took time, but both remained committed to raising their children. Parker later told People that the divorce was difficult and emotionally draining. It took more than a year to settle child support and custody issues. Even in 1999, 2 years after the divorce was finalized, Parker chose honesty over appearances. He admitted, "Kirstie and I are not friends now, but we talk regularly about the kids." It was a straightforward answer, instead of pretending everything had been fixed. He also revealed how deeply the end of the marriage affected him. He said he had made vows before God, and breaking those promises remained one of the greatest regrets of his life, no matter why the marriage ended. He wanted Kirstie to be happy. The hard truth was that he could not give her what she needed, and she could not give him what he needed either. Kirstie was just as open about it. She told Entertainment Weekly, "There was no infidelity in my marriage on either side. There was nothing other than maybe different goals in life." Years later, Kirstie also shared that she developed strong feelings for Patrick Swayze while they filmed North and South, and that she loved John Travolta in a way that challenged her marriage. But she was equally firm that neither situation became a betrayal. She stayed with Parker because she believed marriage meant standing by your commitment and working through the difficult times. Speaking on Nightline in 2012, she explained why she never left Parker for someone else. She said, "Because I feel like when you marry someone, you're supposed to work hard at it, and you're supposed to make it work." 14 years was not nothing. Those words painted the picture of two people who truly fought for their marriage before finally accepting they wanted different futures. After the divorce, Parker kept building his career without chasing headlines. He appeared on The Love Boat, Hotel, and several other television series, gradually leaving his teen idol image behind. He later landed a recurring role as Craig Pomeroy on Baywatch. It was steady work rather than flashy fame, but it showed the lasting career of a respected actor. He also appeared as the school director in all 4 seasons of Netflix's Greenhouse Academy. Later, he reunited with his Hardy Boys co-star Pamela Sue Martin in the holiday movie My Christmas Prince. Their reunion brought back memories for longtime fans and proved some on-screen partnerships never lose their charm. Parker eventually found love again with Lisa Schoen. According to reports, she won him over with the best chicken noodle soup he had ever tasted. Lisa appeared on morning television cooking shows and ran her own YouTube channel. For someone like Parker Stevenson, a quiet love story built around good food and genuine connection seemed like the perfect beginning to a new chapter. He remarried. He found a quieter life, one that suited him far better than the chaos that had defined his years with Kirstie. But the children made sure she never fully left his world. True and Lily, the two most direct and irreplaceable things Parker and Kirstie had ever created together, grew up and built lives of their own. True welcomed a son, Waylon Tripp Parker, in 2016, making both Parker and Kirstie grandparents for the very first time. Lily's son followed in 2021. In those grandchildren, those small new people who had no idea they were living proof of a love story that started in a bar in Los Angeles in 1981, Parker and Kirstie found the one thing that outlasted the marriage itself, the reason to stay connected, even across the wide distance of 2 completely separate lives. Then came the morning of the 5th of December, 2022. Kirstie Alley died at 71 at the Moffitt Cancer Center in Tampa, Florida. The cancer had only just been discovered far too recently. Her children announced her death in a statement that carried the unmistakable weight of people who had loved their mother completely. She fought with great strength, leaving us with a certainty of her never-ending joy of living and whatever adventures lie ahead. As iconic as she was on screen, she was an even more amazing mother and grandmother. Parker was 70 years old on the day he got that news. He hadn't been her husband for 25 years. He had built a whole separate life by then, a real one, with real happiness in it. And still, the man who once described himself as someone who just tends to be in the room sat down and wrote her a letter. "Dear Kirstie," 2 words at the top of a tribute to a woman who had been out of his life for a quarter of a century. And they tell you everything. Not a footnote, not simply an ex, the mother of his children, yes, but also the woman who had walked over to him in that bar 40 years earlier with the absolute certainty that she would die for him. She had then spent the next 14 years being the most alive person in every single room she ever walked into. You don't write "Dear Kirstie" to someone who was just a chapter in your past. She was something else entirely, and Parker knew it. He always had. If stories like this one stay with you, subscribe and keep up with every piece of history we dig into together. See you in the next one. You write words like that for someone who left a space in your life that could never truly be filled. Parker said his first feeling was gratitude. Not sadness at first, but gratitude. Gratitude for the years they shared, for their children, for their grandchildren, and for everything that happened between 1981 and 1997. The excitement, the loud moments, the differences that made their relationship both unforgettable and difficult, the heartbreak they both carried, the pain after the miscarriage, the joy of bringing True home, the day Lily joined the family, and all the ordinary Tuesday nights that quietly became part of a marriage that lasted because they kept choosing to try, even when it was incredibly hard. Tributes poured in from every direction that night. John Travolta wrote about one of the most special friendships he had ever experienced. Ted Danson shared that Kirstie made him laugh decades earlier, then made him laugh again that very day while he watched one of her performances on a flight, not yet knowing she had already passed away. Rhea Perlman said she had never known anyone quite like Kirstie. She remembered her endless energy, the love their families shared, and the sleepovers filled with treasure hunts that Kirstie planned herself because making life magical for others came naturally to her. Jamie Lee Curtis said they often agreed to disagree but always respected each other. Kelsey Grammer simply wrote that he loved her. The cast of Cheers came together to honor her memory. And Parker Stevenson, the quiet man who always preferred staying out of the spotlight, shared a photo of Kirstie's hand resting against his shirt and wrote only 6 sentences. He did not need to say more. Anyone who knew their story understood exactly what those few words meant. At 74, Parker Stevenson is still acting, still moving forward, and still the kind of person who never asks for attention. He has a happy life with Lisa, along with his children and grandchildren. He also carries a lifetime of memories collected over decades of living fully. Among them is Kirstie Alley, the woman who spotted him across a crowded Los Angeles bar in 1981 and boldly declared, "For him, I would die." She helped him rediscover his happiness when he had nearly lost it. Together, they raised 2 children who later became parents themselves. For 14 years, they proved that 2 complete opposites could build a real family despite their differences. Kirstie is gone now, but the kindness she showed, the joy she shared, the unforgettable moments she created, and the lives she touched continued to be remembered long after she left the room. But their grandchildren are here, Waylon and Tripp, carrying the family story into a new generation without even knowing how it all began. That is the legacy Parker Stevenson and Kirstie Alley built together. Not just awards or unforgettable television moments, but a family that continues to grow. It all started with one bold decision in a Los Angeles bar. When a woman saw someone across the room and knew she had to meet him. "You will be missed," Parker wrote. "With love, Parker." Those few words carried decades of memories, love, heartbreak, and gratitude. Some goodbyes are simple. Others hold a lifetime of shared experiences, and this was clearly one of them. Their marriage ended years earlier, but the bond created through their children and grandchildren never disappeared. Kirstie Alley left behind far more than famous roles or unforgettable performances. She left behind laughter, lasting memories, and a family that continues her story. Parker's tribute showed that some connections never truly fade, no matter how much time passes. If this story touched you or brought back memories of watching Kirstie Alley or Parker Stevenson, let us know in the comments below. Do you believe some people leave such a lasting mark on our lives that even years apart, losing them still feels deeply personal? And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who remembers Kirstie Alley and Parker Stevenson. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.